Hello and welcome to Talk Truth. My name is Corey Huntsberger. I've got Alan here with me, my father, and we're going to start off with our foundational verse. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord, for he laid its foundation on the seas and established it on the rivers. Psalm 24, 1 and 2, very important verse, especially for today's topic, Alan. We're going to talk about playing God. But that's all I'm going to say. We're going to leave it at that. What do you think about that verse?
Well, you ask me that almost every day, so I've got something prepared.
Okay.
Okay, this means that everything we see, everything we touch, everything that lives and breathes, it all belongs to God. The ocean, the land, the oceans, the mountains, even the people on the earth, they are not ours, they are his. Why? Because he's made it all. He laid the foundation, he holds it all together. He is the creator and the rightful owner. So when we see beauty in nature or we enjoy the good things in life, we're reminded these are not ours to keep. These are gifts from the one who owns it all. Psalms 24, 1 and 2 teaches us to live with humility, with gratitude and reverence, because everything we have, our breath, our home, our family, it's all from him. And it's all for him.
Official statement released by the Alan Huntsberger. I love it. You did good.
Thank you.
Are you getting tired of answering that question? Maybe you don't need to answer it anymore. We can just let it roll if you want.
Not at all. I got a kids one too. You want to hear the kids one?
No, we don't have time for this program. We got to roll, man. We got to get going because we're going to be watching a bit of a clip, and it's going to be fascinating. You buckle up. You don't want to miss out on this one. Let's bring on our guest. His name is Mr. Shawn Buckley. Shawn, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Just a pleasure to be here.
Well, thanks for being here. And I know you don't want us to mention this, but someone recently had a birthday.
Yeah, someone did. It turns out that most of the world can't count because they think I'm 60, and so yes, so I hit that milestone, and I feel truly blessed, and God gave us just a wonderful event to celebrate that. So.
Well, happy birthday. I know we weren't going to mention it, but I can't help. There's a little balloon poking in the background. There's still a balloon from the birthday party, my friend. So I had to say something.
There's tons of balloons.
Well, I want to get onto the clip real quick. This is the CEO of Rainmaker, who was on Fox News, the show called Will Kane, I think it is, and it's a 10-minute clip. I want you guys to take notes and listen carefully. What's said, what's not said. We're going to have a little discussion about it afterwards. It's fascinating, guys. Watch this.
Welcome back. Congress is looking to take action, at least some in Congress, after the tragic flooding in Texas. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is targeting weather modification. She announced on X, introducing a bill that prohibits the injection, release, or dispersion of chemicals into the atmosphere for the express purpose of altering the weather, adding, it will be a felony offense. We must end the dangerous and deadly practice of weather modification. Now, one of the techniques under the umbrella of weather modification is cloud seeding. It's an experiment that dates back to 1946, and it's now especially widespread in Texas, covering about 1/6 of the state, spanning 31 million acres. So, what is cloud seeding? It's a technique designed to help a cloud produce more rain, and here's how it works. A chemical compound, most oftenly silver iodide, is used to form small crystals that are put into clouds. It's usually by a drone. That process then helps trigger rain. It can also reduce hail and clear fog. It's produced, by the way, modest results so far, increasing rainfall anywhere from 5 to 20%. Now, here's how it's used. States use cloud seeding to produce rain in areas that are experiencing drought. It can also help generate snow in mountain regions. One of the instances of how it's been used in history, by the way, is Operation Popeye in the Vietnam War. Our Army used it to prolong the monsoon season, hoping to bog down the Viet Cong's logistics line, making it harder for them to reinforce the front line. Now, my next guest is an expert in this field. He's also been the center of a lot of controversy since the flooding in Texas. And here's what he has said in the past about cloud seeding.
If you have the right kind of radar and you fly in a zigzag, right, or in a circle, or in your initials, and you only see precipitation on the radar in your flight track, then you can say, oh, that is definitively man-made because we flew in this zigzag or we flew in this spiral, and there's only precipitation occurring in that shape. They did that in Idaho in 2017 multiple times.
Now, I want you to take a look at this. The red line at the bottom of your screen, that's the flight path of his company, Rainmaker, and their cloud seeding operations on July 2nd, just days before the deadly Texas floods. Now some are questioning whether or not that flight played a role in the floods. Joining me now to explain is the founder and CEO of Rainmaker Technology. It's Augustus Doricko. Augustus, great to see you. Thanks for being with us here today, and thanks for facing so many of the questions that have come your way over the last couple of days and the last week. You have appeared with Tim Pool, Dinesh D'Souza, Steve Bannon. You're here today with me to take these issues head on. So let's start with what cloud seeding is. Would you talk to me about that versus the other forms of weather modification?
Absolutely. So cloud seeding is a technology that was invented in America in the 40s for the sake of creating more water in times of drought, be that in the form of enhancing snowpack or water and rain to recharge reservoirs or aquifers that are being depleted. It's something that we've known about for a long time, that we have longitudinal safety data on, that I'm happy to express transparently and give to the public consistently. Now, cloud seeding often gets conflated with another technology that's called solar radiation modification, or SRM. SRM is a proposed technology that's beginning to be experimented with. It's not nearly as old as cloud seeding, but SRM is a proposed technology to inject reflective particles into the stratosphere to block some of the solar radiation and then cool the planet down. That is altogether and totally different from cloud seeding. Cloud seeding is a water supply tool with localized effects and a long history that we can talk about the safety data of. SRM is something relatively new that would have global and climatic implications rather than just effects on local weather. And then there's this third thing, which is chemtrails or contrails. And so where we know that cloud seeding is real, we know that SRM is real, I have yet to see any sufficient evidence of a malevolent conspiracy of someone releasing toxins into the atmosphere in those long streaky tracks in the upper atmosphere. A lot of what I've seen seems to suggest that those are condensation trails formed by airplanes. Now, regardless of whether those are condensation trails or chemtrails, and I am entirely open to people presenting evidence of them being chemtrails of some kind, despite not believing them to be that now, if you see a long streak in the sky, that has nothing to do with cloud seeding, which relies on existing big puffy natural clouds raining a little bit more.
Okay, we talked about the process of cloud seeding. Let's focus in on cloud seeding. This is in your company's most frequent usage, putting silver iodide into clouds, targeted clouds, which you use radar to target these clouds that you think could produce moisture but haven't yet. And you've talked extensively on many of these shows, like the Sean Ryan show, about you've studied silver iodide, you know the effects of silver iodide. Is this safe?
Absolutely it is, and thank you for asking. So silver iodide in cloud seeding, right? We use about 50 grams per operation. That's something like 8 to 10 Skittles worth, and that gets distributed over hundreds of square miles, right? After decades of cloud seeding operations, because Rainmaker is not the first one to have done this, right? There have been companies since the 50s conducting cloud seeding ops. After decades of operations in the regions where cloud seeding has occurred, we've only seen an increase in silver of about 8 parts per trillion. And there's already about 2 parts per million naturally occurring in American soil of silver species. So we've added, after decades of cloud seeding, 1 million times less than what's naturally there, and it's had no adverse ecological or agricultural impacts.
Okay, and people can listen to longer form interviews that you have done about some of the safety and research that you've done on what you use to cloud seed. Now, I want you to please address a larger question, which is one that is somewhat broad and perhaps even religious, but are you playing God? Are you messing with things that you shouldn't be messing with when it comes to the weather?
I get this question all the time, and I totally think it makes sense to ask it. My intention is to serve God. I think that in Genesis 1:26 through 28, and then throughout the Psalms and the rest of the Bible, God tells us to take dominion over and steward creation, both for our sake, creation's itself, and then to honor him. And so if there are droughts and we have the tools to mitigate the damage done by them for our sake and for nature itself, then we should deploy those for the sake of tending to and stewarding the world. And if we weren't to do that, if we were to ban cloud seeding wholesale, despite knowing that it's safe, despite knowing it could help alleviate these problems, we'd be abdicating our God-given responsibility to be stewards of the world.
Okay, let's address whether or not it's safe now and apply it to what you were doing on July 2nd in Texas. This is a very emotional moment. People are upset. Children, hundreds died. The question is whether or not Rainmaker, cloud seeding on July 2nd, contributed to storms that occurred on July 4th. Did it enhance? Did it intensify what we saw some 36 to 48 hours later?
Unequivocally, our cloud seeding operations on July 2nd did not impact the flooding that occurred later. And that said, my heart and prayers are still with all of the people of Texas and all the families that have been affected. It was a tragedy. But in cloud seeding on the 2nd, one, we are regulated by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, and we have what are called suspension criteria, where if there are National Weather Service flash flood warnings or severe storm warnings, then we cannot operate in those areas per the restrictions and regulations we have. Our meteorologists actually proactively suspended operations a day before the National Weather Service issued a flash flood warning. So we were ahead of the curve there, and then even so, the precipitation that we induced, right? Like the very best operations can produce tens of millions of gallons of precipitation over hundreds of square miles. That is de minimis relative to the remnants of the tropical storm that came in and dumped trillions of gallons of precipitation.
So you were able to produce, in short, something like this much rain, less than a centimeter of rain, and the flood itself, the storms themselves, it filled up a 20-foot pond, an Olympic-sized pool, 20 inches of rain. Mm-hmm. And so your argument is, if anything, we contributed the tiniest bit. I want to end with one somewhat scientific but skeptical question that I think you're ready to answer. I've listened to hours and hours of your content and read about Rainmaker. And the question is the silver iodide that you put into the atmosphere localized to one cloud, capable of remaining in the air, and as a new storm system moves in, supercharging that storm system? Could that have happened in Texas?
So supercharging, no, absolutely not. Remaining in the atmosphere, no, not that either. When you seed the clouds themselves, when you disperse the silver iodide into it, and then it precipitates, that aerosol, that particulate precipitates down and out within the course of hours. Now, if you were to just disperse aerosol into open air, then it could persist longer. But one, we were seeding clouds rather than dispersing it just in the open atmosphere. And two, any amount that would have remained in the ensuing days and hours from our operation would have been so radically diffuse, it would have been lower in concentration than just the background dust.
So it either produces rain within an hour or two, or it dissipates within, I've heard you say, something like 12 to 20 hours, meaning some 36 to 48 hours, once the storm moves into Texas, your silver iodide would no longer be part of the equation?
No, not at all.
All right. Augustus, I think you have been very upfront and open addressing things on X and appearing on as many programs as you can be to talk about this issue. I know with my history through dealing with the things that affected Lahaina, Maui, how accuracy is very important in what happens with these natural disasters, and we appreciate you contributing to that accuracy and answering direct questions here today.
Thank you. I plan to continue to do so and hope that in being transparent, we can build some trust around the science and the operations.
Okay. Augustus Doricko, thank you.
Well, there you guys have it. That's your first time watching the clip. I didn't want you guys to see it before the program. I wanted to see you have you see it live when everyone else saw it. Let's open it up for conversation. Your thoughts, Shawn. And reason why we wanted to have you watch this, you're a lawyer. You've listened to thousands probably of hours of testimony. You've prepped, defendants, when they're given, this feels like, I'm just a marketing PR person. This feels like PR spin. I have tons of questions. Pastor Allen, we're going to bring you in about the whole, are you playing God? And it's our responsibility to steward the earth. So we're going to mess around with the weather. Anyway, lots to talk about. Shawn, I'm going to let you start.
Well, I actually liked how you introduced that question, because I was making notes and I put a box around the word chemtrails, because in my training with statement analysis, which is necessary for for any type of trial, and I was a high volume trial lawyer for a good quarter century, he introduced that topic and he emphasized that word, and so it jumped out at me. Okay, there's a message here, and most dishonesty actually isn't outright. it's by deflection or kind of misguidance. And I think, former BC Premier Bill Vander Zalm, and this is, you can Google this was mainstream media. He did an access to information request, this is a good 10 years ago, to the Canadian government saying who's spraying the chemtrails over our heads in Canada. I want all the information you have on this. And it made mainstream news. The Canadian government responded and agreed it was happening, but it's not us, so we have no information to share with you. And, I live in the Edmonton area now. Like literally last year, my wife and I are driving back from Saskatchewan. Beautiful sunny day, except over Edmonton, there's this and you see the planes. And I've seen them from planes. So when somebody says there's no chemtrails, I just find that incredulous. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they're for, but I know that when something major is happening and there's secrecy, that is an alarm bell for me.
Do you feel that possibly there's some wordplay going on? Like, we say chemtrail, and I don't know who came up with that terminology, almost like the word rapture. You'll never find the word rapture in the Bible, but we use it all the time in the Christian circle. Do you feel there's some wordplay going on? So when you call it chemtrail, they can say we have no record or there are no chemtrails and we don't think that exists, but yet maybe it could be CRM, the solar radiation thing that they're doing instead. Mm-hmm. And if you said, hey, they're spraying they're doing CRM out there, then that's a different story than you're saying, hey, they're doing chemtrails. Do you feel like because I know in law, words are everything. Emphasis is everything. You got to have your I's and your T's and your commas in the perfect, because it changes things, right? In court and in law, correct?
Well, absolutely. So if you've defined something within your, parameters, and there's something, you can credibly say, well, it's not this as you understand this to be, right? But, even when he says SRM, this solar radiation management, that in itself is quite spectacular, isn't it? So he's basically saying, well, this is happening. So we're spraying particulate up in the sky to modify the weather. Well, why aren't we being told about that? Because this is a pretty significant thing, isn't it? When you're asking the question, are you playing God? And one promise that we do have is that we're going to have the 4 seasons. So we're not going to be able to mess up with that. But again, why is anything happening in secrecy? And if we're already doing weather modification, how can we have an honest discussion about climate change without, first of all, acknowledging what we're doing and what the impact of that is?
Well,
and what are the health consequences of what we're spraying in the air?
Agreed. And I love how they say, oh, it's for drought. It's for, more snow in the snow-packed areas. It's for filling up the reservoirs. But yet in that news clip, it was also for the U.S. military to use it in a time of war with Vietnam to keep the monsoon season going to confuse the enemy. So it's like, which is it, guys? You know what I mean? What else is it then that you're not saying? Pastor Allen, Dad, are they playing God? And his answer was quite fascinating. I've never heard anyone answer something to that effect.
Let me tell you what happened to me. When the flood happened, by the way, I saw that clip, but before I saw that clip, right after the flood happened, a 24-foot wall of water, 24 feet of water coming down. I mean, like stuff that it's like in biblical form. It's unbelievable. And it's like, how did this happen? And so I asked the Lord, because as you know, we have supposed to have a intimate relationship with the Lord and talk to him. And I asked the Lord, how did this happen? And what he said to me, and I believe this with all my heart, chemtrails. That's what he said. And then I watched the Will Kane show, And this guy's talking about cloud seeding and chemtrails. And I'm going, there you go. It is messing around with God's creation. And when you mess around with God's creation, it's like, for example, it's like what's happening to our food. Our food is poisoning us. Our soil is poison. Our food is poison. Bobby Kennedy is trying to get the chemicals out of our food. I try to find organic food wherever I possibly can, because all the pretty vegetables and everything else that we see in most grocery stores are things that are making us sick and we shouldn't be eating. So, man has been messing with nature for a long time to try to be God, and in that process to try to serve their God, which is money. And so I'm confident that it doesn't matter what they say. My thing is that I believe God told me, yes, it's them messing around with the clouds that caused that freak flood.
Well, you mentioned organic food, eating healthy. Coming up in a future show, we're going to be talking about glyphosate. Shawn, you're very familiar with this. You've had testimony on this. And there's new research now that showed 6 out of 7 organic cereals have glyphosate in it. So even organic still has glyphosate in some of the things. But anyway, I digress. Dad, let me ask you this. Can you stretch that verse where the Lord says we have dominion to rule and reign over the earth, the birds of the air? I mean, is that what he's talking about? So like if there's a drought, we have complete authority by the Lord. It's actually an act of worship towards the Lord for us to go ahead and shoot stuff up in the sky to make it rain and manipulate the weather. Is that what that verse is talking about? Because I find that really a stretch.
No, it's not. It's not what it's talking about. If you look at the words in Genesis, you'll even find that we're to rule over, and then it goes through the list. And the one thing that you've got to notice is, for example, man is not on that list.
Right.
So we don't rule over man. In other words, why? Because God is king. And it's his leadership and it's his rule that we follow. Okay? So when he created the world and he said, I want you to rule over, the rule over is different. And climate is not mentioned there. He made the rain, he made the clouds, he made the sun, he made the stars. He's the one that created nature. We're to cultivate it, develop it. Now we got weeds. And the reason why we got weeds and thorns and thistles is because of the curse that was placed on the land because of Adam and Eve's sin. So we have to take care of that. And that's also something that we've got to keep in mind, that the earth is cursed because of the sin of man. And the earth groans, as Paul says in Romans, waiting for the sons of God to be revealed. So the creation is even waiting for the kingdom of God to have rule once again over the earth.
Corey, can I jump in? Because that also jumped out at me as he answered with Genesis and said dominion. And then you bring up glyphosate. And there's a parallel between things like glyphosate and chemtrails in that we, the average person, has no say, and there's deception going on. So with glyphosate, there's been this. They've known it's been dangerous for a long time, and the regulatory body's known this. I think that any exercise of dominion has to be consistent with the second commandment, that we love others like ourselves. And also the first commandment, that we love God. There has to always be full transparency, and we have to demand that. And we can't be doing things that are going to be harming others, because that is a fundamental violation of our responsibility to take care of each other.
Yeah. Well, we're out of time, but I got to say, I can't imagine, like, it wouldn't surprise me if the globalists, the elites, feel the same way as the CEO of Rainmaker about how God has put us in control of the earth. And so I can just imagine their depopulation, that they think the world's overpopulated. And so we need to help depopulate the world. So we're actually doing an act of service to the Lord by helping, bring more balance by eliminating some of the population. I don't know. That's just the theory. It's just fascinating. It was an interesting conversation and interview. It actually opened my eyes to a lot of things of how they justify certain things and how they language. That's why we wanted to have you on, Shawn, how they speak around things, almost like how the enemy talked to Eve. You know what I mean? Did the Lord say you can't eat of any of these trees? You'll become like God. You'll see good and evil. You know what I mean? Like, it's just fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for being here, Shawn. We're definitely going to have you back.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure, and I truly respect what you're doing. You're trying to bring truth through God's words to people on stuff that matters right now. So thank you.
Well, fascinating conversation, Dad. I love it. You guys go back, watch that interview again and get your own understanding and listen closely. It's fascinating. We want to quickly talk about our Talk Truth by-election candidate forum that we're going to have. It's also going to be a meet and greet. Alan and I are going to be there. Leighton Gray is going to be there. He's moderating. We've got Shawn Buckley and Teresa are going to be there. I think even Tanner Naday is going to be there. Michael Wagner. There's a whole list of us going to be there. But we have decided, Alan, to do a by-election candidate forum on July 31st in Tofield. You can go to our website, gotalktruth.com, click on events, register for it that you're going to be there because we can only allow 500 people. But Dad, what's our hope in this? Why are we doing this?
Well, the question is, why would God pick the by-election to happen in Battle River, Crowfoot? Why would God pick that where the church that I started is right in the center of it? And so we believe that God wanted us to get involved and have some opportunity to encourage those that are running for politics to consider God in the process.
You want to help support our mission, keep this kind of conversation and truth on the air? We are viewer supported. You can go to our website, gotalktruth.com, click on donate. There are many different ways you can give digitally. If you'd like to send a gift through the mail, you can. You can make that gift payable to Heritage Christian Ministries Association and send it to 246 Stewart Green, Southwest Suite 3260, Calgary, Alberta, T3H3C8. And if you'd like prayer, you can call our toll-free number, 1-800-915-0056. Someone from our prayer team will pray with you. That line is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right, Dad, we're out of time. We'll see you guys later.
Love you.